Hey everybody, welcome back to our news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Apologies for the lack of content this week. I just been rather busy. Been doing a few things here and there. So just apologies that going from one news roundup to the next. I will have more content for you guys this week, I promise. It's just been a little bit busy, just been doing some stuff here and there. But we've got a couple of things to discuss, namely some stuff that happened at the box office, amongst some other things. So we're just going to cut this short, and we're just going to dive right on in. So, of course, coming off of the Memorial Day weekend, we had the release of two major films. The first of which that we're going to discuss is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. It's interesting little history with this film, as we've discussed on the channel. Originally, of course, it was not meant to be the final film. It was meant to be just another continuation. It was supposed to be originally Dead Reckoning Part 2, but due to production cost and their desires to get people to come see the movie, they decided to change directions and decided to build this as the final film. So, how did it do? Well, it opened to a global debut of $204 million. Now, that is considered the highest for the series in terms of an opening, but the production costs come at a staggering $400 million, making this one of the most expensive films of all time. And that's not including any marketing expenses. As of this writing, I've not found any disclosures of marketing expenses, likely raining an additional $100 million. So potentially we might be seeing an investment here of $500 million. So yeah, I said to my brother, I doubt that they're going to disclose marketing expenses at this point. I really don't see why they would, because of just how enormous the production costs are on their own. And just by the production cost alone, if you were to times that by 3, which I would usually do in consideration of triple-digit budgets, this film has to make bare minimum $1.2 billion to break even. So when you put all that into perspective, right, once we know about the production costs and the potential between them with the marketing expenses, even though it was the highest opening for the series, when you consider all of the financial aspects of this is a major flop in the making. I mean, $204 million is really nothing for this. And as we said before, the reasoning behind the marketing of this is purely an attempt to string up interest by promoting the quote-unquote final film, which clearly did not pay off in massive ways, outside of just comparisons to its predecessors, which probably had much lower budgets to contend with than this. So, as per the optics of the marketing, it is rather deceptive, but per the financial sides of the film, it's pretty genuine in saying that this will likely be the last one, because I really doubt that this is going to turn a profit. I really, really doubt it, because the series has really just lost steam. I just don't think that people are that interested in this series anymore. And yeah, I mean, regardless if people are still into it or not, this is going to fail. It's probably going to shape up to be the biggest loss of the year. Snow White doesn't even have these kind of concerns when it comes to its production cost. Yes, they were also big, but not to this degree. So yeah, so it definitely is Mission Impossible for Mission Impossible. And I really think that this is probably the last time that you're going to see this series, at least for a little while. So now going to the other side of the weekend, we had, of course, Disney's live-action retelling of Lilo and Stitch, which also opened against Mission Impossible. And how did they do? They opened to a solid global debut of $341.7 million. And in terms of their production expenses, they ran at least 100 million, and the marketing expenses to match that with an additional $100 million. So a total investment we have here sitting at least $200 million. And if we were to do per my calculations, timesing that by 3, the film would need to make at least $600 million in order to break even. So, being truly the opposite to the Final Reckoning in terms of how their finances are going to shape up, this is going to be a win for Disney and really a needed win for the company. Because as the year has gone so far with flops such as Captain America 4, Snow White, Thunderbolts most recently, this is a nice change of pace for the studio, and it will definitely hold up for the next coming weeks. There's no major contenders until we get to, of course, like How to Train Your Dragon, Megan 2.0. I don't count Ballerina because that's really not going to be that much of a contender. And we're actually going to talk about Ballerina in a little bit, so stay tuned. But this is definitely a much needed change, a much needed win for the studio. And given the healthier investments, hopefully it will be an indication for studios to secure more low end type of cost to see better results, to see stronger profits within their larger tentpoles, because this is going to do pretty well. I could see this definitely crossing 600 million. I can definitely see this become the Moana 2 of the season, in that that film like kind of just took over that of the fall and winter season. So I could definitely see that happening for this. So yeah, it's a win for the studio overall, and a much needed one, if you ask me. So speaking of Disney, we have a delay for the Avengers films, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. They've both been hit with delays, both now releasing at the end of their respective years. Doomsday now is set to release on December 2026, whereas Secret Wars is set to come out on December 2027. Now, the reason behind the delays is to provide more time for the productions, which is reportedly the biggest the studio has ever tackled. And as far as timelines are concerned, this marks the second delay for both films, following the creative overhaul that came with Avengers Doomsday, because that was originally going to involve Jonathan Majors and also was different title, the Kane Dynasty. So yeah, a little setback, but given the amount of people that will be represented in these movies, and also considering that both films are being shot back to back, it makes sense that they would need more time. There's some rumors that I've been hearing that apparently there isn't a completed script. I highly doubt that, given the enormity of this project. I don't think you can really act in that way. But what still gives me doubts about these films, these specific films coming up, is their financial sides. I mean, we know they'll do good business. I mean, just the name value alone will sell it. But how much will it do? That remains to be seen. So, we'll see. My question is, how much will it do? Not necessarily will it do good. It's more about how much will it do. We'll just have to wait and see. So. All right, let's get into something revolving around Ballerina, the upcoming John Wick spinoff. So, this is a little bit of a funny story. So, according to some reviewers who have received an embargo notice from Lionsgate in relation to the release of Ballerina, people who've got to see the movie in advance, the studio, at the time of the notice, was only allowing, quote, spoiler-free enthusiasm to be shared online, and any, quote, critical social sentiment and formal reviews were to be held until June 4th, 2 days before the official release. Now, in response, reviewers called out the embargo online, and the studio has now made a, quote, clarification in that all can now share their opinions publicly online at the same time. And according to some inside sources, this was a case of, quote, poor writing. That's their defense for Really, what is a studio trying their best to strum up some interest for something that they clearly don't have much faith in? Because spoiler free enthusiasm translates to we want positive reactions out there first to generate interest for the movie, which isn't tracking well to begin with, and trickle out the negative responses closer to the release of the movie, aka bury those opinions in and lift up others for our own benefit. In a similar fashion to Mission Impossible, this is essentially deceptive marketing, and it's a classic illustration of when a company has no faith in their product. So, thankfully, people called them out for it. I mean, even if they didn't, let's just say they nobody cared, right? People were still not going to seek this out. It's got low trackings, and as far as just reception is concerned, there's just not a whole lot of interest in a spin-off in this universe. More with Keanu Reeves, that's different, but with any other player, no one's gonna really care. But to do this, to be so direct to the audience, to people like that, to just really endorse other opinions over others, it just validates more to the ideas that social media users are shills, because some of them are gonna play along with us, and that there's very little reason to seek this film out. I mean, if the company has no faith in the movie, I really don't understand why then you would be more confident to check it out. I mean, you check it out at your leisure, right? You seek it out if you want to. But yeah, they clearly are not that happy with what they got. So we'll see we'll see what happens, but as far as Lilo and Stitch is concerned, Lilo and Stitch is going to be the reigning champion for the next few weeks. We'll see where Ballerina falls in that equation. So, speaking of Lionsgates, let's get into an interesting story. So, we talked about the Michael Jackson biopic before, just simply being titled Michael. We talked about just potential delays, some reworkings of the film. Now there's, ideas of it being split into two movies, and it looks like that might be moving forward, that idea of splitting it into two films, because the film is headed for a month-long reshoots amidst some of the ongoing discussions of release strategies. So, according to the Hollywood Reporter, the reshoots are intended to help expand the first half into a feature length, which is indicating that the studio is having intentions to split the film in two. And there is a script for a potential second film, but it still needs to be finalized. And currently, as it stands, the production costs stand at around $155 million. So you should expect a delay. Potentially at least a year-long delay, and two films potentially for this production. Now, I said at the time that I think that that's a smart idea, because I think that will help minimize the risk in terms of just the cost itself. If you were to split that 155 into a nice little $70-80 million chunks, I think that there you might find a little bit more grounds, for the film to do well. But given that they're now having to dedicate more time and pour more money into this, I just don't understand the strategy here. If the production has produced, according to the article, 3.5 hours worth of footage, I don't understand the rationale to then expand that production. I can understand if it's difficult to find a cutting off point, but creatively speaking, if you're not able to find a way to split the story into two feature-length films, there's something fundamentally wrong with that team. I mean, the film is what it is, right? I understand that it wasn't intended to become two separate movies, but to spend more money, right, and plan out a month's worth of additional photography, that's not something to just look over. A month's worth of additional photography, that's substantial, and who's to say that they don't also do the same thing for this second film that they're now planning out. So all you're doing now is making the investment go higher. And what you could have had with two films in like a $70-$80 range, now both are potentially going to carry $100 million a piece, rather than just settling with the lower cost if you were to just play with what you had. And you have a lot. You have 3.5 hours worth of footage. So I don't understand why you need to keep pouring more money. So, individually they won't be $155 million a piece. That's not what's happening here. Just the general investment overall currently stands at $155 million. But we know that's going to cost more now. So, it's probably going to be at something like $200 million when it's all said and done. I just don't think that's smart. I think that I think you can make that work with what you got. I don't think that you need to be spending more money. I think that's just poor judgment. Because now you're reaching triple digit prices when you could have maintained double digits if you played with what you had. But yeah, so I mean, we'll see what happens. I would expect at least a year-long delay, and that's also going to make the budget go up. So while individual films may not be as expensive compared to just releasing it all at once, because we also talked about benefits of releasing two films in like an hour and a half chunks. You get more auditorium spaces, more people get chances to see your movie, whereas a 3.5 hour film, there's only so much time that film gets to play in that theater. So, but I just worry that the costs are going to get more concerning, and where they could have just had lower cost if they just stuck with what they had and play around with the investment as it stands rather than adding onto it. So, but we'll see what happens. There's no confirmation of anything yet outside of just reshoots, but we'll probably hear something in the next coming weeks about where this film lies and where what's the strategy behind this specific biopic. We'll just have to wait and see. So, alrighty, we got a couple of trailers to discuss for today, and then we're going to call it a day. So let's get into it. So the first trailer we're going to discuss is the teaser for Zootopia 2. Of course, the first Zootopia took off, is widely popular amongst a lot of fans of Disney and just, animated feature-wise. It's kind of one of those well-known modern pieces. A sequel is on the way. This stars Jennifer Goodwin, Jason Bateman, Ki-Ho Kwan, and Shakira, being directed by Jared Bush and Byron Howard, who, of course, are the original filmmakers of the original Zootopia. This has a release date of November 26th, 2025, so we're trying to hit that Thanksgiving weekend. And as far as the trailer is concerned, this isn't exactly a trailer as much as it feels like a piece of marketing, in that it's really hard to determine if the footage isn't just squarely made for the trailer or if it's sequences from the film itself. It's kind of hard to tell. As it stands, it appears to be more stylish than what came before, which I think is more concerning than inventive. But I don't know. I don't remember much of the original. I remember liking it, but I just don't have much fondness over it. Like, I don't have much care of seeking out another of it, seeking more from this world. So, but I know it'll do good business, though. I know it will. I mean, they're putting this in the Thanksgiving weekend for a reason, because they're looking for this film to dominate, and it absolutely will. There's a lot of fans out there for the original, and I'm pretty sure it's going to just rocket at the box office. I just don't see a reason for myself to care, personally. So, alrighty, we now have another trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth. Now, I would have just not watched this, but my brother showed me it, so I'll just kind of give a little nugget thoughts on it. I just don't care. I really don't. I've never been the biggest fan of the series. I remember seeing the original. I think it's been like such a long time, so I can't tell you exactly. But it just seems like we're starting to lean more into the absurdity, and I'm not entirely convinced in that way. Like there's now mutants, like mutations now within the dinosaurs. Like they're crossing, like it's like anamorphous or whatever that shit's called. Um, they're just combining shit now. Like no thanks. Like we're just kind of entering the Fast and Furious corners of this series, and just like that series, Fast and Furious, this will also do good business. But just like Zootopia 2, I just don't really care to seek it out personally. So, so yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And finally, we have the official trailer for a film called Caught Stealing. This is starring Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, Matt Smith, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Liev Schreiber. This is being directed by Darren Aronofsky, who, of course, you guys know for films such as Requiem for a Dream, which I still really want to see, The Wrestler, and most recently, The Whale, which we have reviewed on the channel. This has a release date for August 29th, 2025, and it's very apparent that this is a departure from the identity of the filmmaker himself. And in my view, it's clearly for the benefit of a paycheck, because this just smells of a studio film. Like it just lacks any distinct characteristics that, that kind of like make it apparently so that it's made by a specific filmmaker. Like I'll be honest, I'm not completely familiar with Darren Aronofsky, like to point out his characteristics, but I'm familiar enough to know the kind of work he develops, and this just seems very just out of his wheelhouse. And again, just by design, by the nature of its filmmaking, by how it's presenting itself, it just feels like a film made by a studio. It just seems very typical in design. And knowing Darren Aronofsky, that's not necessarily the words I would use to describe him. So, because ultimately, as it is, it's easygoing, it's very ordinary, and it's not something of what you come to expect from Darren Aronofsky. And I just feel as though that is more or less than 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 evolved. It doesn't feel like we're cutting a corner. It feels like more like we're cutting a check. So yeah, so just hopefully he got some good money for making this. Because I don't know, maybe he's struggling to get some projects made or something. I don't know, but that's just the aura I get from looking at the trailer. It doesn't feel like a piece that's made from a filmmaker. It just feels like something that was being made by a studio, and then they hired him on as an asset, as a marketing point. So yeah, it doesn't really do much for me. I just don't really care. It just seems very just stale and, just like I said, ordinary. Doesn't have any distinction or some kind of embedded style. It just looks very vanilla, and I just don't really care for the results personally. But just knowing the potential why he's doing the movie, that's really the only interesting thing about it. Everything else about it, I just could care less about. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts for this week, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry for the lack of content. Like I said, it's just been rather busy lately. So I'll try to be putting up some more content throughout this week. So be on the lookout. And yeah, so let me know about all your thoughts on all these things. Of course, about the Memorial Day weekend, how you guys felt with Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch. If you guys saw those films, let me know. Your thoughts on some delays for Avengers, Ballerina, the stupidity there, the Michael Jackson film, as well as the trailers, Zootopia 2, Jurassic World, Caught Stealing. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.